Welcome back to another chapter of Final Kombat. Last time, we just received a summons from Raiden, who actually brought his skilled warriors to the Dragon Grotto so he could discuss with them in private of the upcoming Battle of Armageddon, while he also sent Serena to Ashra at the Sky Temple because Ashra is like her consultant. And Fushin was actually late because of the previous encounter at the Crimson Forest. He was supposed to get the special forces, but Raiden got most of the warriors, Liu Kang, Kitana, who we actually met with a newcomer named Frederick's son, who was a scout, who escorted Kitana from the Botan jungle to the Wuxi Academy by a blip portal, or the instant teleportation, rather. So Liu Kang, Kitana, Frederick, Aiko, Kung Lao, Hanzo, Kwai, Frost, Smoke, and Nightwolf were actually summoned at the Dragon Grotto. The Nightwolf and Smoke actually recorded it for the tardy members. So, they had decided to espionage in the Netherrealm to spot on their enemies and what they're conspiring, because they're pretty certain that with the uprising of the Takunin and Oniro coming back, Shao Kahn, Onaga, and others, they believe that they're conspiring something in the Netherrealm. So, let's go there, shall we? Alright, continuation 5, Hell Tour. And by the way, this was a very bad impression of a certain game I encountered. The blue portal took Raiden's small team consisting of Aiko, Kung Lao, Hanzo, Nightwolf, and their new associate, Frederick's son, into the most horrid, diabolical domain, the Netherrealm. Only this time, instead of being in an opaque plain or immersed in a demon city, they materialized on a rocky bank overlooking a body of red, as if it belonged to water, and with the distant hanging chains, they figured they were in a pier. After he conjured the rip, Raiden's voice became hoarse. I have always dreaded this place. The bloody sea, the conduit of outworlds and the Netherrealm, where no one survives while the sea is littered with endless blood and legions of undead dwellers. It's also bottomless, as victims tend to fall forever. Everyone spoke in strange tongues, full of dread and anxiety. Can you blame them? The vessel itself and its captain, Charon, escorts the damned into their eternal prisons. They'll be bound by Shinnok for eternity. Even if we should consume anything habitable to this realm, we must never be tempted. We must always stand guard. I was never sure about a voice actor for Frederick, but I guess maybe similar to Gomor, with Gomor and Shio and F-Zero, I don't know. The damned must be restless. No wonder it feels like intense gravity here. Yes, Charon must be the ferryman, like Charon or that beggar in the bardo. Do we need to pay him? We aren't part of them, as we're still alive. So, we will be like intruders to them, and should pay him as we're foreigners. Alright, hold on. Fly, get out of here. Quite right, Hanzo. I will negotiate. Raiden stepped forward and discussed matters with the boatman, who looked quite scary with his frizzled white thick beard, balding head, and garb that blended into the endless entrails. Kung Lao just gazed out over the choppy sea, rigged with those sharp rocks. Just like our voyage in Outworld. His mind flashed back several years ago when he and Liu followed Kuai Liang to the nearby wrecked vessel, which he repaired with his cryokinetic slabs, keeping it afloat. They soon disembarked, and the warrior warned of any stragglers invading them. Sure enough, several swarms of drowning denizens leapt onto the main deck, while the Shaolin monks assisted their new ally as they fought them off, with Lao mostly performing his signature throw. "That was when you'd been chasing after me, Kung Lao." Hanzo's voice interrupted his reverie. He hesitated and sulked. "Yes, that was when my brother and I pursued you, as Kwai failed to catch up with Noob Saibot. And this led us to fighting each other. I wasn't human form yet, and it was before I found the truth." He laid a hand on his shoulder. "My sincerest apologies, Kung Lao. You've come a long way since your damnation. I trust you will never betray me. Charon has accepted the offer. I forewarned him of Armageddon, and we needed answers from the fallen Elder God. We are now ready to depart." Everyone nodded in affirmation. "Kung Lao, look after Aiko. She was born anemic and wasn't diagnosed before she traveled through time. Do you still have your iron supplements?" She nodded as she showed him the beak container which was half full. "You'll need them to help you withstand the queasiness. The sea of blood could make anyone's stomach churn, not just from movement. Prepare yourselves." Everyone replied with a bow before they headed a few feet away from the queue of sinful passengers. Each one of the shades were escorted and shackled into the overpacked cabins, albeit some were feisty and simply were clambered into them, while the combatants remained on the outer areas of the main deck. Metallic rusty bells began to chime as Charon detached his vessel and soon turned it eastward to their destination. And this was inspired by MK11 of all things. Raiden mentioned it shall be 1 knot, 1 mile away, and we must keep a sharp lookout for any sudden stowaways or jerks on the ship, as the damned would try anything. "Much like those demons in the river Styx." "Precisely, novice. How long has it been since you've eaten, Aiko?" "Since before Kung Lao and I were summoned to the grotto, so I guess about 30 minutes. "That's not good. It might not be enough time." "Incoming!" Nightwolf's warning pierced through the quietude like a spear, and a few stragglers with loose hanging flesh and blood hung from them like fronds. Everyone stood guard, even some unguarded, before they charged into the fray, and they mostly relied on their close-range tactics unless they must throw the demons off. Battle has begun. Hanzo hardly used his deadly spear and pyrokinesis as he mostly relied on hand-to-hand combat. Raiden bashed through them with his staff, grateful he didn't want to give it away to Kai before his ascension to former Elder God status, which is Kai's wasted ending in MK4. I'm not into that. Aiko mimicked her mentor's strategy, wielding her bow staff, while Kung Lao sliced through their splattered guts with his deadly hat. Nightwolf seemed to be the lesser phased by the disrupted voyage, as he plowed through waves of enemies with his soul-empowered axe and dagger, even his swift and brawny moves. At times the Thunder God conjured his bolts, but due to his limited power in another realm, they usually came out as sheer shocks rather than complete electrocution, leaving him vulnerable. He was once caught in a hold by a couple demons till there was a volley of lightning. He was indeed flabbergasted that the new combatant Frederick was able to wield his own prowess, even when immobilizing them before a few swipes with his canary katana. Over time there were large clusters of the desperately damned, to the point where each of the heroes had no choice but to toss them overboard, especially Hanzo, who stuck out a signature lethal spear into a queue and threw them asunder before retracting it, or Kung Lao, who was doing some of the crowd control as he diced and performed his Shaolin throw. The inconsistent current caused his stomach to lurch and even throb. He held it as he felt some sharp pangs, and he muttered he needed to be wary of his maneuvers. The constant movement contrary to the current, even made Aiko squirm, as if her head was about to fall off, with her eyes as so glazy. Suddenly she felt like vial building. "Oh, I think I'm going to be sick." She slightly hunched over, and Kung Lao was the first to notice. He went by her side, even fending off a ganging, bony zombie or two, yet still her abdomen and esophagus were acting up. She eventually held her neck and mouth, nearly hurling as her throat constricted. Open for an assault, she began to wander as far away from the melee as possible. Unbeknownst to her, since she seemed the most susceptible to the impurities the sea was emanating, the sun rapids and the bulging throat caused Aiko to falter. Kung Lao noticed the warning signs. "Aiko!" She hardly had time to react as her body tumbled over the edge by another quake and dropped straight into the current below. Oh man. That was until she was unexpectedly saved by a red dragon who swooped her away and above the endless bloody sea. She wound up riding the serpent's back, who flew higher away from the stomach-churning chemicals. She shot open her eyes and noticed she was on a blunt surface rapidly moving away from the vessel. She observed the serpentine neck and the flat snout. He let out a wry grin as he faced his new, ecstatic passenger. "I don't believe it! I'm riding a real dragon!" she exclaimed as she adjusted herself. The beast nodded in affirmation before it made a sharp U-turn facing the infested vessel. He saw the undead springing up from the sea, and he let loose a volley of flames, incinerating them instantly. The distracted passengers shielded their faces from the sun-fiery streak from above, and the dragon let loose again, aiming for the side and cabin, scorching the dead. God damn it, not now. The tepid assault was so intense that the lower deck began to collapse. The ship lurched forward as it continued its voyage forward, while Nightwolf observed, and I shouldn't have repeated, while Nightwolf observed they were sinking into the bottomless blood. Aiko screeched her friends were still on deck. "We're close to Shinnok's spire, but we're still too far away!" Raiden shouted over the chaos from the panic-damned souls. Hanzo attempted to aim a spear onto one of the spiked pillars around the 50-foot tower, but he was out of range. Raiden stated his powers were useless on carrying them with at least an air tackle. Kung Lao offered to make a teleport toward the disjointed aisle, although Frederick beat them to the punch. "Gather round, stay close to me. I could blip us out of there." Never having any other choice, the team obliged, and with a snap, everyone dissipated in a millisecond into thin air. A few moments later, they emerged onto more firmer ground amongst the thorny coast beside them. Aiko cried they made it off alive, before they all beheld Charon and his unfortunate souls beginning to sink deeper into the undertow till the topmost pole was out of sight. The group adjusted themselves, while Kung Lao inspected the heart gems still lively. "Aiko!" As if on cue, the fluttering shadow greeted them as the red dragon landed softly beside them. Aiko turned her body sideways and Lao caught her in the nick of time as she dismounted from the savior's back. They immediately made a tight embrace, almost like an airlock. Raiden perspired. "I really appreciate you for saving Aiko's life," before she plummeted into the sea of blood. He just nodded and hissed as he stuck out his forked tongue a few times. "Wait! Who are you?" he replied with an otherworldly tone. "I am Karo, Dagon's former dragon guardian, and the former mascot of the Red Dragons, created against my will." "So, you were the one who incepted the Red Dragon clan?" "No, it was my slaver Dagon, the younger and more warmongering brother of Taven. They are both sons of the late sorcerer Delia and the protector god of Edenia, Argus. Kairo's wings fluttered at times. He was hardly used to them being so heavy and wide with the teal innards. I made this up, by the way. I don't think Kairo actually had wings in Armageddon, but I believe them to be like really, really tiny, so that, Dagon would prevent Kairo from escaping. So I kind of made this up. I wish he would fly, actually. Same with Orin. If you were once a slave to Dagon, then who set you free? When the Red Dragon hideout in Charred Mountain was firebombed, there was an Oriental who seemed to have as much might as a god. He wanted to keep his name a secret, and he restored me back to health at the Yin Yang Island. Kairo explained he escaped via a fiery portal, and his rescuer and a female Edenian nursed him for a day or two. He was soon imbued by the Jinsei and fire healing his wounds, and also budding his tiny wings. They were small to disallow his freedom, thus never flying, and having their growth stagnated after being clipped. But the god restored them to their full size. Kairo also told that crossing the Sea of Blood was deja vu for him. Raiden was in deep thought. So, he knows about the Jinsei and wields fire. Could it be Liu Kang? He said he didn't want his identity revealed. He said he didn't want his identity revealed. I can see why. He just doesn't know yet. Or maybe it could just be Blaze. Why would he want to be in the Netherrealm? May have something to do with this place. He pointed yonder. Contrary to the rest of the team, the trio were fixated onto the monstrous structure, as black as every essence roaming the Netherrealm. So we are at Shinnok's spire. That is Shinnok's spire. It would require all our strength to breach the utmost floor. Shinnok's throne room. He faced the sick combatant. Aiko, you may need to be on healing duties for the duration of this mission. She nodded despite feeling clammy with her face so placid. Raiden led the way, followed by Hanzo, Kung Lao, Nightwolf, and Frederick, with Aiko and Kairo taking the rear. This won't be an easy journey. I would need all of you to stay and work together. Understand? If we cohere, we'll survive. All of a sudden, summoner demons emerged from bursts of flame. Raiden commanded his troops to rid of them, while he would activate the color-coded monoliths and fill the corresponding spheres in the rear wall of another tall structure. Kairo and Aiko stood by for reinforcements, as both Lao and Nightwolf took them on. It wasn't until he unleashed his fury in an F3 funnel the way was clear. A tower of light emerged from the epicenter, and the team proceeded to the next floor. This was based on Mortal Kombat Armageddon in Taven's expedition, only instead of descending, we're ascending. It's kind of ironic. I kind of did the reverse. Everyone thought it was some kind of a gauntlet challenge, yet still the group shifted. There was another summoner's demon, only this time he dissipated and made duplicates of imps, which looked to be numerous, but about a foot in height. Frederick and Hanzo volunteered, and the former wraith took charge whenever the big bad appeared. Frederick's electrokinesis was exceptional, especially when thrashing through hordes of imps with his blade. It wasn't long before they proceeded. In the next floor, the group witnessed a wounded crusader of sorts, wearing the same primordial armor plates and helmet. The next floor, which I already did, wasn't long before they proceeded. Hanzo and Kung Lao knew better. Havoc! The pair rushed over to the wounded cleric. Are you all right? Kung Lao queried, then mentioned Aiko to lend over her heart gem to restore his heart and vitality. Havoc just rose his head in disbelief, before he gradually stood up. "What's the big idea? You taking pity on me?" The Shaolin didn't hesitate as he rushed over and punched him in the face. "Hyah!" Havoc just took in with a wry grin as he held his chin. "Feel better now?" He smirked. "That's more like it. Been too long since I've seen you two." "Same to you. What in the Elder Gods are you up to in the Netherrealm?" "Ah, yes, I had heard murmurs going around of a hellspawn who's about to wreak havoc on all the realms. My compatriots Dairu and Darius were preparing ourselves for the ultimate battle. We're here for espionage on Shinnok, so we get some intel of his followers being involved in Armageddon." "Armageddon? The waste of chaos is smiling upon us. That was until I was defeated by that bastard Taven. I was left to die by Shinnok, and my clerics turned on me. They should still be at the Chaos Realm, converting them to the ways of order, serving that Elder God with his wings clipped." Hanzo turned to the newbie and knelt. "Frederick, can you bleep to other realms?" "I would have to know what that other realm is. The Chaos Realm seems new to me." Perhaps I can be of some assistance. "Cairo, you can actually develop portals?" "Indeed, but it requires most of my stamina to do so." Hanzo lifted Havoc's arm over his shoulder and escorted him through the red ball of energy. "Alright. Hurry! Hurry! The betrayer may notice this sudden elope." The yellow-garbed ninja wished to return as soon as possible despite the group having one less member. They dissipated moments later. They took the colossal funnel and emerged smack dab between some spiked walls. They knew more of the demon warmongers would arrive, only this time they went after the poor red dragon. Lao and Nightwolf immediately took action and succeeded, while Aiko restored the dragon's health, which resulted hers to shatter and wither away. She warned the humidity was so dense she could only conjure her strength once, but not enough to make another gem. It was convenient enough for the active trio to take on several more demons in the next 2 floors. "Up ahead shall be Shinnok's throne room. I may have lost most of my powers here, but it's still enough to sense his accursed essence." The group proceeded with some nervousness between them until their mentor spotted a particular traveler. "Taven!" From that sudden roar behind him, the Edenian demigod turned quickly and met up with the defender of Earthrealm himself. Lord Raiden!" He was almost too excited to even bow, although Raiden wasn't impressed. "You had finally been awakened, I see. But why are you here within the Netherrealm?" "I've been looking for my brother Dagon. I believe he has wandered here to empower his corruption. That's what Orin and I thought. But why are you here?" "To spy on Shinnok. You have been a fool assisting him. He's a fallen elder god, casted down by serving mortal affairs. I was the one who banished him here. He warred with the elder gods and reduced Earthrealm to ruin. He is not who you think, Taven." Kira spoke to avoid the escalation. "Taven? So you're finally awake after all." "What? Cairo?" "Yes, Taven. It has been too long, old friend. Look, we need to see what Shinnok is up to." "Yes, he's gathering him forces as we speak for Armageddon." "Armageddon? The extinction of all the realms? By the Elder Gods, I wonder what the competition was supposed to be between me and Dagon. Oren said something like this would happen. Aiko and Kung Lao's minds seemed to have tuned out the bickering and were fixated on one thing. Do you feel that, Kung Lao? Yes. It must be him! He pointed to a deformed, colorless face that had multiple streaks of blood. The rest of his body seemed obscure, blending within the shadows. His arms were outstretched to unseeable chaos in distant walls. Shinnok! They rushed over, only to slap him in the face. I should have known you would be here, Raiden! Simply reached in and held his neck like an anaconda squeezing its prey. Explain, Shinnok! You must be recruiting our enemies to conspire and destroy us in Armageddon. Blaze won't be our only adversary. You are working for him. Prisoner still never backed down. I am not the same Shinnok I used to be. You should know. Losing your vitality by creating your own doppelganger. The risk worth taking. What do you know? You don't have your precious amulet. Shinnok snarled. I detected your dark signature. It was you wreaking havoc in Earthrealm after your sacrifice to Onaga. I'd seen it all. And even you and your champion opposed the Elder Gods. How do you know all this? Shinnok's body twitched and felt an object that made Aiko's blood run cold. She panicked as she noticed a black crystallized heart-shaped gem. Kung Lao was furious. You stole her heart! You are a fucking forsaking abomination! Frederick and Kung Lao tended to her. You created this from Aiko's cardiokinesis, borrowing it when you were disguised as Kai in the Netherrealm War. The Thunder God knew it all. It wasn't just from that rare specimen. After I absorbed the champion's heart, I was taken aback by the sudden churn of light energy. I was greatly irritated. That would be me. Big surprise. Indeed, you three made me suffer dearly as I diffused myself apart. I had spontaneously split into another form as I remained, weak, helpless, paralyzed by excruciating pain. But at the same time, I had remembered being a part of the pantheon associated with my sister and mother, the elder goddess who's the opposing force of light and light, Cetrion, and the dominatrix mother, Chronica, the titaness of time. Shank spat us as if disgusted mentioning them. I wasn't raised as a love child. I was raised in the line of her whims, as the polar opposite of my goody sister. Chronica admired her more, over me, the younger sister receiving the most attention. I was enslaved as she was given special treatment because of her blind loyalty. I despised them both, since I still had assertiveness and my own desires, while she was the mama's girl. Oh, and my own mom was willing to stab me in the back. Since then, I resented the elder gods as they did nothing. Everyone was aghast, especially Taven and Frederick. And that's why you lost your sanity and waged war in the heavens. You should know full well how your followers will betray you. Everyone perceived me as a threat. I hadn't seen my treacherous family, and then I was casted down and imprisoned here. My hatred still remained, and I'd thrown all of my compassion away, and I seem to have become amnesiac. Until now. With Armageddon to seize by my own double walker torturing me, he has been in alliance with all the overlords to kill Blaze and attain the prize. The forces of darkness will march forward in a fight to the literal death of all reality. Raiden relieved his hold. What must we do? You know what you must do. The elemental figured exactly. I won't give you your diabolical amulet. Suit yourself, just to show my opposition to the petty archangels who have cared nothing for you, even in their ranks, and perhaps unite with my lost sibling, no strings attached. I will entrust you with my pleas, Raiden and Aiko, as I gifted you the visions for you to end them. Raiden was just too absorbent to hear a suggestion to get out of here. So Shinnok was the one emitting those visions. It was easy to figure out since Taven was capable and warping out the same as Frederick. Kero offered to create a rip leading back to Earth and the Wuxi Academy. Needless to say, all the heroes had numerous unanswered questions, as cryptic as a hard reboot. Pun intended, as it did so twice. Although, by the time Kero was the last one out, he collapsed again. Inspirations include the accursed Taito game Bonze Adventure, should be Bonze Adventure, involving the Blood Pond, which could have been the inspiration for the Bloody Sea in Mortal Kombat. Kero's rescue of Aiko was a slight reference in Pokemon 3 the movie, when Ash's Charizard did the same, and was able to carry him without issue. The ideas were usually from MK Temple's vid involving the Armageddon battle, as well as anonymous affection, but it seemed true when the former mentioned Shinnok made a doppelganger to kickstart Armageddon, as mentioned by Fourth Snake. This took so much time and work disregarding the constant tiffs over whether or not MK1's canon. The conquest wasn't easy to highlight, as it was complicated, and I hated Taven acting the fool much like Shijinko. He should have known of Shinnok as an elder god and his fall from grace. How can he be so ill-informed? I can't stress it enough, it pissed me off. One of many things. And there are the songs for that, yada yada yada, and there's Dante's Peak. I'm sure not too many people appreciate it, but I do. So, I'm so damned relieved to make this motherlode out of the way. See you in next chapter. So much work to do to take care of. So, I'll see you guys next chapter. Until then, this is the Ekron Writers signing out.